Okay, good evening, everybody. Hello. Okay, we're getting people to join up. Everybody is rolling in. Louis Kruger, yeah, hey, how's it going, man? Great weather for red wine. It is cold in Johannesburg. It's quite ridiculous. I think today was like 16 degrees and 0. Tomorrow's -2 and 13. So it's just getting colder. So, yeah, I'm going full Svalbard gear. That's all sorted. Hi, Linda. Hi, everybody. Okay, so while everybody is still joining like we do normally, what we're going to do is if you have any questions during this webinar, then, hey, Martha, how's it going? Then, Frank, I got your message. Sorry, I got your message, didn't get your emails. So what we're going to do here is, Elissa, hey, how's it going? Is if you have any questions that you want me to look at on cropping, either now already or as we go deeper in, please drop them in the Q&A tab, and I'll pop into there every once in a while, and then we'll end off again with particularly just Q&A. Hey, Greta. So, hey, Sally. So, and then what I'll do is I keep my chat function open all the time as I'm working so I can keep going and keep track of you guys. Hey, everybody. Ooh, all the familiar names. I love it. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to just give it a second or two, and then we're going to get going. The idea with today is cropping. Now, there's two parts to cropping for me. There's the how, which is pretty simple. You can Google that, but we're going to go through it step by step in Lightroom specifically. And then there's the why. I see too many people where they'll take a great image. They'll create this amazing image in the field. And then suddenly when they get to the computer, they crop from full screen down to just this little piece. And then they're surprised that they can't print it, or even for social media, sometimes it's too heavy. Or how do you decide which orientation to crop? Do you go landscape? Do you go portrait? How do you approach that? So we're going to look a little bit at all of that. But what we're going to start with is I'm going to take you through the cropping function in Lightroom. I'm going to show you exactly what it is, run you through the whole kind of ecosystem of cropping. And then we're going to just crop through a whole bunch of images, and I'm going to talk through why I would do that, why I wouldn't do that, just some tips and tricks in between. Like I always do, can I please ask for a number out of 10? How familiar are you guys with the cropping tools inside of Lightroom? 10, I've got this one, what? So between 1 and 10, how do you rate your skills and understanding of Lightroom's cropping function, please? Should be pretty solid. Okay. It's always the how is pretty good. So I can fly through the Vic. How's it going, man? Okay, it's a pretty kind number. We're averaging around about a 7 or an 8, hey? That's pretty good. So that means I can go a little bit faster. The chat function, like I said, is open, and the Q&A, you can drop anything in between. So I'm now going to take you into Lightroom, and we're going to look at cropping inside of, yeah, go, hey, how's it, man? Inside of Lightroom. Okay, so as always, can you guys please confirm for me you can see my Lightroom, please? Just to make sure that Zoomers play along with us. Okay, you got it. Right, now, there's one or two short keyboard shortcuts that we're going to look at. And the first one is the one that takes you, I'm in the library module now, right? You guys can see library module. So this is my grid. And here I can look at and scroll through all the different images, which is pretty cool. But the nice thing is here, you don't have to go into develop and then to crop. You can go straight from here, straight into crop. So what we're going to do, just to show you, is let's take this leopard, for example. And from here, you can take your image straight into the crop module by hitting R on the keyboard. Think of it as recomposing. So I hit R, and it takes it straight into Lightroom, and it opens the crop function, right? Now, what I find helpful when I'm doing cropping is to have this information, top left, on the screen. Now, if you don't have that, you can use the I keyboard shortcut, and that cycles through nothing, if there's nothing, once, gives you the file name, the date, and the metadata, and then you've got all your XF info there. But if you look down here, 3888 by 5184. So that becomes very important when we crop. Why? Because, and this is, you guys should know this, but I'm going to say it anyway, right? Is you cannot, or should not rather, have an image like this and say, ooh, I'm going to turn this, and you see this, into a leopard portrait. Not going to work. Right? Why? Look at this detail here, 743 by 991. That's a very tiny little image. Not much, and you can even see just here, the image is falling apart already. So you cannot change an image from something to something else, but you can tighten it up and finesse it a little bit. Okay, so if we pull back, there's the full image. So R, again, takes me straight into the crop function. And this over here is where we're going to be operating tonight. So you can also, if you are in the develop module, you can also just simply click on this crop function over there, and that opens your crop tools underneath. Right, now inside of the crop tools, you get crop and straighten, because that's what you do when you crop, is you can crop to dimensions and you can straighten. So the first thing we're going to do here is original ratio as shot per camera, or if you want to change it. Now, people try that again. People often asked, what ratio should I shoot at? Well, I try to keep it to main ratios, just as shot by camera. However, if you want to do something else, if you click on these two triangles, right, it gives you a whole bunch of stuff down here, which is pretty cool. So if you're, for example, wanting to do an Instagram image at portrait, you're going to choose 4:5, because that's the biggest portrait ratio that you can use on Instagram. I am doing a social media one, I think a week and a bit from now. We'll dig more into that. And then from there, once you've selected your ratio, this padlock is locked. So wherever you grab this thing, yeah, it stays at 4:5, which is quite handy. So you can then compose, and when you finish, you can either click the crop icon, you can hit R on the keyboard, or you can hit enter, and there's your final crop. Now, the cool thing with cropping in Lightroom is that it's non-destructive. You can always go back. In the past with Photoshop, like Photoshop 1 to 3, you couldn't actually, if your crop, it was gone. You couldn't go back. But with Lightroom, if you go back, the detail is still there, and you can then tweak it up or down or whatever the case might be. Now, at any point in time, if you feel you want to reset your crop, you don't use the master reset down here, because that'll reset any other adjustments that you have as well. You reset at the top. This is the reset just for crop. And that takes it back to normal. Right, so one more time, your ratio you choose over here. From here, as shot, original or custom, 1:1. These are the standard ones. Here, this, I'm very, very bullish on this. 16:9, because we use phones and laptops all the time, it's quite a nice one to use. And then when we do the social media one, we're going to use these at the bottom, because you can use custom. So let's say I say to you, I need an image for the Wildlife Facebook page. It might be something like 400 by 128, for example. And Lightroom gives you that. Okay, so you can do your custom stuff, and it'll keep them down here for you. All right, for now, let's reset our crop one more time. And the last thing is, if you want to crop freehand, so without a ratio, and a lot of people do this, but just be careful to going too extreme on this, because it gets very difficult either for print, like magazines, or for things like Instagram, Facebook, even Twitter on the web to use, is you click on the padlock and it opens it up. When this padlock is open, you can grab anywhere, and then you can free crop. So if you want to really do like a skinny ass leopard, you can do something like that for a banner on a Facebook, on a website, or whatever the case might be. Right, so one more time, you click there, you close this. Once you've changed the orientation and you close the crop, it now locks this ratio in place. So now you can't change free. Yeah, that has to be open for you to free crop. Okay, easy stuff so far. So let me have a quick look here, close that. The next one, which I find very, very handy. I see the questions coming up, guys. I will get to those a little bit later. A very handy one. Now, as you guys might know, if you're in your grid module, so if you're working over here, and you're doing your cataloging, X means a reject, right? So I've hit X on this, and it gives me that X or a black flag, which means this is a rejected image. Okay. The cool thing though is if you are, let's go back, let's use a leopard for now, for instance. R takes me there. If I'm in crop, and while I'm in crop mode, I can hit X, right? What that does is it flips, it keeps the ratio that I have, but it just flips it from portrait to landscape. Watch, boom. Now, if I do it again, it keeps the size and it flips it back. So it just basically rotates. The first one will adjust to the size, and then it stays the same. Yeah. So think of this. If I reset that one more time, if I wanted to just quickly see, can I maybe put this guy in? I would just go, I would open crop. I would hit X, place, done. Really simple. Yeah. Go back to crop and reset. So just make sure before you start Xing to rotate, make sure you are inside the crop module. Otherwise that counts as a reject. Okay. So next one coming down here is angle and moving this thing and rotating it around. Right. So the one I chose for this, and we're going to crop all of these and kind of talk through the why and the how, is okay. So if it's image, take this into crop. Hello, why are you not going into crop? Or there it is. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing Elissa and Linda, I see your questions. We will get there. Right, so if I look at this, right, and I don't want to crop this thing that it's flat, that both these eyes are flat. There's a couple of ways you can do this. The first, and what most people do, is they come up and they take their cursor. Watch my cursor, top right. If I take it up and you take it to the outside corner, you get this little 2 arrows, right? You can click here and then rotate. And now you can rotate this image in any dimension that you wish. Okay, which is quite handy. So you can then just kind of check it out. Okay, cool, there, that's maybe more. Grab and rotate so the eyes are equal there. Okay, alternatively, what you can do is you can basically just use this angle bar, grab the slider and rotate. Yeah, you can just rotate from there. The last one is more for horizons. I'm going to use this a little bit later on, is when you use the angle tool and you then draw a line, right? Oops, sorry, my mistake there. And you draw a line, what you want to be straight on the horizon, and then you release. That is a very, very cool trick. So we're going to get back to that in a little bit as well. Right, that in a nutshell is cropping. But the how is easy. The why is where the magic comes in. Quick one for me. Are you guys all, that's easy, right? We flew through that and we're going to do it again and again now and talk through the why of cropping, because that to me is where the juice is. That's the more important thing. Everybody happy up until there? You got that, yes? Pretty simple. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, I'm going to just quickly look at these 2 questions here. Elissa asks, what are the minimum dimensions before you start losing quality when you crop? Or does it depend on the image? Okay, that's a very good question. Let's quickly go. Elissa, I'm going to take you back to Lightroom quickly for the answer on that. Is if I go to my image over here, this guy right now is 5472. If you look at the dimensions at the top here, 5472 by 3648. Now, to get the megapixels, you time those by each other. That's gonna be about, what's it, 18 something million, give or take. 5, 3, 15, 18. Call it about 18 to 20 mil, right? So 20 megapixel image. If I now go, and this is again why this is not going to work. If I crop and I think, ooh, I'm going to be clever and put this on my Instagram, right? It's already falling apart. So if you look at the ratio now, 1223 by 792, that gets dodgy, right? That's not going to work. It's a very small image. I normally, from a rough point of view, I try never, dimension-wise over here, I try never to drop under 1280 on my shortest edge. 1280 means for Instagram and all those things, it'll still work. So 1280 shortest edge, Elissa, for me, works here. Even as a square, if it's 1280 as a square, perfect, not a problem. Okay. And then Linda, can you explain which custom sizes you use and why? Linda, it's a good question. Let me take you there quickly. Perfect, Elissa. So if I look at cropping, Linda, for you, custom. So I don't right now, I don't have any custom ones. We've used some of these specifically for our website down here. The only other ones, and it's not on this laptop, my sister's taken over the kind of social content for us. So there we've got ones for Instagram, for Facebook banner, for example, or for Twitter, landscape and portrait, for Instagram, landscape and portrait. So personally, I don't use any of these now, but when we do that social media one next week, I think it's next week, then we're going to dig into exactly, and I'll have all of those for you. Instagram, landscape, portrait, and so on and so forth. So all of those will be there, if that makes sense. Right. So let's have a quick look here and just see if there's any questions going. Nothing else. No. Okay, that's perfect. So now the cropping, the how is easy. The how is easy. It starts, however, inside of your camera. We know this. Lightroom has freestyle cropping. Is basically you could just unhook that padlock and you can freestyle crop as much as you want. So if that padlock is closed, You can't, it'll stick to the ratio that's on screen, but if you open it, you can free crop to your heart's content, which is quite nice. Okay, so the one big thing that I don't like of what happened when Nikon released the D850 and Canon did, I think it was the 5D SR or something, which is also like a 50 megapixel beast. All that people did is they shot the image dead in the middle and then they cropped. So it made you lazy. I still think, apart from it being fun and a bit of a challenge in the field, I still think there's something to be said for getting it as close to correct in camera. Sometimes you can't because you might not be able to move the focus point, so you might have to move around and crop a little bit. But the more intentional you are at composition level, the better your images are going to be when you start cropping. I believe that 100%. Now, for those of you that have traveled with me or done workshops and stuff, you might have heard me speak about a concept called visual mass and visual energy. And this is the why of cropping. So people read images like they read a book. Okay? No, it doesn't have to be a square or a rectangle full. If you unlock the padlock, you can do whatever you want. Yeah? Pretty cool. So visual mass and visual energy. Visual mass is the point in the image that draws your attention the most. So what I did when I did courses is I would have people close their eyes, I'll put an image on the screen and open their eyes, and then they would be drawn to something. Now, if you as the photographer are creating images and the visual point that draws the viewer's eye, right, is not what you're trying to show them, that's a problem. So for example, when we did the courses, it would be, they would take a picture of people out at the design quarter, but in the background, there's a big bright red umbrella. That pulls the attention, but that's not the point of the picture. This is important. When it gets to, for example, multiple subjects, is are you using compositional guidelines and cropping to make people look at what you want them to look at? So visual mass is that strongest point in the frame. It's normally a light area on a dark area, or a sharp area in front of a soft area, or a very saturated area, or more contrast, whatever it is. But there's something about it that draws. I've done blogs and videos on this as well. The second element is visual energy. Now, what that is when you look at a scene, which way do your eyes go? Do you go side to side or do you go up and down, right? Because that's how you would crop. That's how you would crop. You would either look at the image and say, I'm going to do this as a landscape or as a portrait. Yeah, that's often people also struggle in the field when they're looking at a scene is, I just see them shooting, they never flip over to portrait orientation. Even though it's a giraffe standing close by, they're trying to do that because you're enhancing what the people are seeing if you show them how to read the image. And that's what cropping does. Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning of those and I'm going to crop them all the way through and talk to you and kind of see which way does the visual energy go? Where is the eye going to? So for example, if you look at my screen, if you're going to follow me from here to there, right? I'm not going to crop it up and down because you're looking this way. But if you want to crop me just up here, you're forcing the person to look up and down. Does that make sense, that concept? Because the moment you start thinking like that in the field, it will help you decide which way to crop and shoot. It does both. Thanks, Alyssa. That's cool. Okay, guys, keep the questions coming. I'm going to keep the chat function open while I am on this. And we can go from there. Right. Okay, so let me quickly get in here. I'm going to go to grid. And then we'll just do one more details and stuff afterwards of cropping. All right. So in we go. Cropping. Now, for those of you that have some of my other webinars, I would always crop first. Always. Before you start moving these sliders and swinging them around, make sure that you crop first. Because if you look at the histogram on your images, right, and you crop, or as my shortcut, the moment you watch my histogram, you see it changes. The histogram changes according to what you crop. So if you do adjustments and then crop, it's going to be off, especially if you're looking at your black and white points. You guys should all understand that, I hope. So let's reset. How would I crop this? So the first thing I would do for myself, and this can be in the field or now in cropping, is I would look at this and think, okay, cool. Close my eyes and open. What do I find? For me, I find the face, but then I'm drawn to this bright area as well. So I might have to tone this down with a brush and push the face up. But cropping wise, there's a lot of negative space at the top here, a lot. Yeah. So I would take this corner and I would pull in. So I'm free cropping this for now, something like that. But now I'm thinking, okay, I'll do this for Instagram. So let's go 4x5. That's the biggest portrait orientation for Instagram. Fine tune a bit. Now, why wouldn't I put her there? Right? Because now I'm not using negative space and leading lines of allowing my visual energy to go. Because for me, if I pull her back to there, that's a bit more balanced, right? She's coming this way. So all the energy in this frame is going top left to bottom right. She's looking this way, her foot pointing this way, everything is coming this way. So I want to leave a little bit of space where she's moving into. Yeah. So from a crop, that's a very easy one. Super simple. I wouldn't do anything else to this crop wise. I would do a whole bunch to it with brushes and stuff, like push this area back, lift the face up a bit. But from a cropping point of view, pretty simple. Next one. Okay. So same cat, we followed her for about 4 hours this night, which is amazing. Now, this is the uncropped version. So I hit R on it and I think, okay, where is this energy going? It's very simple. The visual mass, when I open my eyes, is I find her, I look at the body, and then I see, okay, cool, there's this thing. Forget about the processing. We're just talking cropping and composition, the why of cropping. Would you crop more of this off? So then I would look at this and say, okay, cool, is this balanced? If, for example, this green tree was not here, I might want to squeeze in from both sides, but this green tree can balance her. So maybe I want to bring in this side a bit. And then I think, okay, the negative space down here is cool, but maybe there's a bit much. So what if I will always try first with a closed padlock, always, because it's just a more user-friendly. So if I maybe do that, lift it up a bit, much stronger. The why of cropping there. Why do you want to crop this image? Not just to fix it, because you can't fix it, right? You need to be intentional with this. Why did I crop like that? I cropped like that because I felt that if I lose some of the black, it will be more balanced in the center of the frame. I also lifted the bottom up a bit, right? Because I felt there was too much black, too much negative space. That just feels to me like a nice tighter composition. So this is an interesting exercise if you have time that you can play with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my grid. I'm going to go to my grid and I'm going to do a virtual copy of that image by doing Command apostrophe. So it copies a crop with it along, yeah? And I go back to the original, back to develop. And here I say, right, let's undo the crop on that one and hold it and go to grid. So now I've got two images, one cropped and one not. Put them next to each other. Okay, small detail, but big time difference. The devil's in the detail with these kind of things, right? One more thing, and this is important with all of photography. If you ask 5 photographers the same question of how to crop or how to process or how to, you're going to get 17 answers. So I'm teaching you the how and a little bit of the why. There's no right and wrong. There's no right and wrong. For me, this feels like a tighter image. It's an intimate image of a predator that just got its kill. So I want to be a little bit more in. I don't want my viewer's gaze to run away off the frame with all of this black. Okay, carrying on here. Let's go to this one. Right, so now where is that? And the first thing you ask yourself is, number one, what is the visual mass in this image? What is the point with the biggest visual mass? Obviously this dude in the middle, right? Where is the visual energy going? Down, top right, bottom left. Zebra running down a crossing, slow motion. So how can I enhance that? I would not, for example, immediately, and there's no right and wrong, but I just want to kind of show you, I hit R, I hit X to flip it. That to me feels like a waste. I'm sure you'll agree. That feels like a waste because you've got all this beautiful energy going down, but now you're telling my viewer, by cropping up, you're telling your viewer, this thing goes up and down. You got to read it up and down. But better feeling would be something that enhances that. Now, 16:9. I love 16:9 for these things. So you click there, you come down to 16:9, and you do something like this. Maybe tighten it up just a little bit, something there. That automatically feels better to me. Again, it's the how and the why. You guys can go and play afterwards. But this shows me, because all of these lines are going down. It's all these diagonal lines, which is great. And the 16:9 is a very friendly ratio for today's world we live in. Computer screens, phone screens, and so on. So this makes me feel I'm still getting that angle, yeah? And I specifically would keep this one on the bottom left. I wouldn't crop it off because it shows this one is not alone, yeah? Each to his own. Let's move on. Okay, something like this. So I've seen many similar images like this. And the first thing that people think, okay, I'm going to crop the guy out because he's kind of just not part and I can't see his face. So the common thing would be to hit R and then to go and do, okay, let's do this, okay, which you 100% can. Nothing wrong, right? But I would maybe create a virtual copy and then think, hey, listen, what would happen, let's go to the original, if I, for example, did a free crop on this, open the padlock, and I do something like that perhaps, and then just minimize some of him. Suddenly a very different story. The narrative's different. On her alone, she could be yawning. Now she's the focus. The visual mass goes to her because it's sharp and recognizable, but the story is completed by having someone on the other side. Ah, she's growling at him. So there's multiple. You can, especially if you don't crop a lot, you can create multiple images out of one image if you crop clever. So create the virtual copy and then crop clever. You get a lot of good stuff out of it. Okay, now something like this. I had this as an image on my Instagram feed a little while ago, and I had to play with this for a bit because like with that zebra slow motion, my first thing here was that I thought, you know what, let me try and do something like that, which could work in this instance. It could work. It's just wildebeest coming down on a little escarpment close to the river, right? It could work. But what I did is I went and I said, I want to do an Instagram portrait, which is 4:5 ratio. You flip it and then there. The diagonal was strong enough for me to go up and force the reader to look up and down. There is a little bit of this, so it can go both ways. But the moment you start looking at why do you want to crop? By cropping up like this, yes, I'm telling my viewer this is quite a steep bank because I'm making them look up and down. If I did it long, I'm not emphasizing the height of the image. I'm simply showing, look how wide this is. The why of cropping is ridiculously important. Okay, moving on to the next one here. Okay, this one we cropped to pieces. Let's go back to him and reset him. Okay, so what I did with this is I was looking for eyes or something for the Wildlife Instagram, Facebook page. And what we did was I took this and I straightened it like earlier on, and I went 16:9. Now suddenly it becomes a lot more powerful and I can keep going. I can go in on this even more. So I can go in even more here. Okay, Alyssa, on your question, watch my ratios up top here. So I'm still well above. This is still a good 6.5, 7 megabyte image. So for online use, easy. So I could get that out of that image. Still looks a bit squiff, so I can just go and tweak that a little bit. Done. Okay, so if you don't have the glass in the field, understand how much you can crop. And to play with some of your images, that's cool. And then just shoot some and crop them and see how much you can get. So for this level, what was this with? I think this was a 1DX4, old days. So that I could be happy with. For online, very easy to use. Okay, moving on. Next one here. Okay, something like this. Now, quickly in the chat section, would you think the visual energy gear goes side to side because there's lines in the river and the bank, or is it up and down because there's stuff from the back and the shadow? Is the visual energy side to side or up and down in this image? What do we think? Because that'll drastically affect. I see side to sides, up and down. I see. Okay, it looks like a hung jury. So let's do both and see what happens. This is the cool thing. There's no right or wrong. So we're gonna go and say, right, let's do virtual copy of this. Up and down says Bianca. Marisa side to side. Okay, so I'll duplicate that. I'm gonna do the first one. Let's go side to side on the first one. And as it is now, right, because the length is more than the height, my visual energy is already going side to side. So I'm just going to go freehand this thing, open that, And I would just come down, oops, open the padlock, and maybe do something. See, I would like to personally, I like this bit in the foreground, right? Personally, because it shows me where these grasses are coming from and also where he's heading. So story-wise, that becomes interesting, okay? If you do this, you're gonna make sure he's in the middle, like he is. So this kind of works, right? I'm liking it, I'm liking it. Just watch here for me, let's see if this works. If we do this, could work as well, right? Okay, quickly, very quickly in the comments, in the chats, do you like the foreground or not? Do I include the foreground or do I lose it? Go. Yes, keep it, like, include, yes, yes, lose, include. It looks overall like we are keeping it, okay? Okay, let's do this, not to upset anybody. Let's do another virtual copy. This is cool, so we can look at all the differences. And now we go to the virtual copy. And on this virtual copy, we crop and we lose the bottom. Okay. And then we go to the main one. And now this one's going to be the up and down version. So how do we go? We hit R. You hit X to flip it. And then I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty cool. But this top is very, very kind of, there's a lot of negative space for my eyes to go up on. So I'm going to tighten this thing down, maybe to there. Okay. Interesting. We like that. Just a quick one for you. Another shortcut key that I forgot about earlier on. If you hit R on the keyboard, X will flip it around. But while you're in crop, watch the padlock. If I hit A on the keyboard, it opens and closes the padlock for me, which is quite handy. Right, so we crop that as there. And now we put all three of those on the screen, right? Same image, very different narratives. This is number one, number two, number three. Give me your favorite, please, out of those three. Which one do you guys prefer? 1, 2, or 3? I'm a bit torn here. Filth is, okay, let me do this. I'm going to go out. I'm going to share it again. Zoom sometimes does funny things with sharing. Okay, you guys should be back with me. Okay. Okay, let me do, why is Lightroom being funny with me now? Okay, and standby one. I'm going to stop that for a second. Let's try one more time. Gotta love technology. Okay, can you guys see me now? Technical issues. White screen, why a white screen? Okay, I'm gonna quickly just restart this thing. Okay, while we're restarting Lightroom, because it's being difficult with me, right? We are just gonna keep talking. So the one thing you must look at, and this is handy, especially if you have images with many, many, many animals in it, or a scene of lions with loads of lions, or wildebeest, whatever the case is think of how you can get different images out of one image. Crop it this way, that way. And sometimes you can actually get a good image by cropping it this way and that way. You do a bit of both, yeah? Okay, Lightroom has just opened up. Let me see if I can show it to you. If I do, screen sharing, technology should be worth a short knee, and go. Can you guys see my Lightroom? Please say yes. Yes, you can. Fantastic. Okay, it's not a gin and tonic. It's just a little whiskey, a little one. Okay, so let's quickly, without us going into that again, this is 1, this is 2, and the one without the foreground is 3. Which one is your favorite? What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm quite partial to 1 and 2 personally. Either 1 or 2. Yeah, not many. There's 1 or 2 3s in here. 2 seems to be a winner, with 1 a very close second. So between these 2, right? But now this is the win. This is the win. If I build my portfolio after every image, if I build my portfolio, I would take both. I literally would, because whether you're just trying to bolster up your portfolio or you want to have more stock photography, whatever the case is, works well. And that's all done with crop. Why? This one over here, right, shows distance in. He's trying to cross the river. This one here emphasizes it, absolutely. To emphasize the reflection is way stronger, right? It's a great idea, Alyssa. It's actually a very good idea. A webinar on creating a cohesive wildlife portfolio. I like that. I like that. Where this one here shows me how wide the river is that he's trying to get across. Very different narratives. Yeah. I would move the line a bit to the right. Would that make sense? On number one, let's see. You can. I mean, yeah, we're not going into too much detail here as far as that. But I mean, you could do for something else. You could do that. There's so many options. And why this could work is because the waterline kind of goes up. That helps that out. Again, there's no right and wrong, and that is a golden thing. Okay, let us carry on here and see what we have. Okay, this one I simply put in because it's scar from a couple of years ago in the Mara. I put this in just from a quick discussion. The client I had there, we had a long discussion on this and whether she should try and get the trees in there or there. And in the end, I think we went for something like this. But it's difficult because visual mass in a scene like this, he is the strongest part of the visual mass. The two trees, which there was three, but the two trees also very strong draw to the eye. These two could be a distraction. It takes me away. Anything that does not add to your image, get rid of it. So I think this was in the end where we went with. Just an interesting kind of angle. And then there's this one. So something like this. Quick one. Portrait or landscape? What should the crop be on this? I'll do one of each then. But let's see what you guys think before. Landscape, exactly. That's the first go-to. I see a portrait, okay? Landscape, 69, absolutely. Landscape, Shazmin, hey, how's it going? Perfect. Okay, so let's do this. We take this here, we duplicate it or make a virtual copy by hitting Command apostrophe. We now have two of them. The first one are into crop. And let's make this first one the 16 by 9. So I click here, I go 16 by 9. Oops, sorry, 16 by 9. I then tighten this up to there. And maybe do that. I could bring this in just a touch more, put him there. Something like that, right? Good first way. I might even lose this. Let's just tighten it up a bit more, make sure it's right. Okay, beautiful space. I might even drop him down a bit, more sky. Okay, then let's do the second option. So we've got something to compare with it. I'm going to think Instagram. So let me put 4 by 5 as a there. And we do something like that. Now, same image, very different result. Yeah? So this one here, in this image, it speaks very much to the vastness of the landscape, the distance he's looking into. The next one emphasizes the sky. I might be just want to push him over a little bit still this way. This feels more balanced. Yeah, so this is more about the height of the sky. The other one is more about the width of the environment. And that is the why of cropping. That is why it is important to think, to look at the original image and say, okay, cool. Listen, what is it that I want to show the viewer? Do I want to show him, is the sky important or is the width important? Excuse me. If you can't decide, do one of each. Simple as that. So I like the idea of doing one of each, one of that, and one of that. See, same image, very different. And can you use both? Add them both to your portfolio. Really can work. Right, and that, as they say, is cropping in a nutshell. Let's quickly look at a question. Any other questions you guys might have? Marie Ostrom, how much negative space should you use? Any ratios to go by? Okay, that's a great question. Now, there's no set ratios to this. It's not a theory like that. But when we talk negative space, so let's see which image I can use here. So this one maybe. Okay, so how I approach that question. So the question is, how much negative space you use, any ratios? So if I look at this original image, right? If it was like that and we cropped it to there, this to me doesn't feel right because the pivot point, if you will, on this image is this thing's face, the face and the foot. That's kind of the pivot point, okay? That's important. Now, for me, if I draw a line across here, I'm going to actually, let me see if I can visualize this for you. So if I draw, it's a red, but if I draw a line here, right, I want the red that you're seeing now is the negative space behind my subject, if that makes sense, because he's walking down. I want to make sure that there's less negative space where he's coming from than where he's going to. For me, I try and get like a 1/3, 2/3 ratio, but that's just me. So what I would do here is my crop then would have to be to maybe there. Okay, this works easy because it's the 2/3, right? So there's the pivot point now on the eyes. That's where he's going. That's where he's coming from. So Marie, it's not there is no specific like ratio answer to that. But I would use that. I would use, as long as you've got more space where the subject is going to or looking to than where it's coming from. That kind of works well for me. Okay, Charlotte, absolutely, you can keep both. 100%, you can keep both. All right, Lindsay asks, how do you do a virtual copy on PC? I think, Lindsay, I think it's control apostrophe. But what you can also do is I think you can right click on it and then come down here. So on any image, you can just right click and then virtual copy, create virtual copy, which is pretty easy. Q&A, I'm going to stop sharing there. Let me go back to the Q&A. There's a couple more in there. What size do you keep so that you can print the image? Now, printing an image, I am doing a print webinar like this. I haven't got the date in front of me, but I think next week sometime. The most important thing there is resolution. If you're going to print, and in that webinar, I'm going to show you how to reverse engineer from the size that you got in the top right, top left corner, say 4,200 by 3,200, what the maximum file size would be able to print to. So I'll show that to you in that webinar. But the biggest thing there is try not crop much. The less you crop, the better. But you have to work it out then according to ratios. Franco, do you use any other than 1/3 rule? Not really. I mean, for me, a lot of the stuff when I'm looking at the negative space is a feeling. Like this just feels right. Sometimes you look at it and think it's on the rule of thirds, but it doesn't quite feel right. So let me tweak it a little bit. So no, I start kind of with my 1/3, 2/3 rule of negative space, and then I tweak it to gut. Kind of just see how it feels as we go. Right. How do you use 2/3 images in one screen to compare? Okay, Ideal, that is on the Wild Eye YouTube channel. There's a webinar that Mike did on using the survey mode. So you select them and you hit N on the keyboard, but go and check the Wild Eye YouTube channel. I'll put it on my feed tomorrow as well. And then you can do it from there. It's a pretty cool function. Duratim and Deep Mystery. Any particular recommendations for bird photography, especially given that the subject is at a distance, usually unlike mammals, and genuinely distracting elements like twigs, branches around it? So bird photography is slightly different in that, or any fast-moving subject, I wouldn't try and compose in camera because that thing moves quick. So I would compose in camera, lose space around, knowing that I'm going to crop. But then you can't crop from full to this. But I would normally compose for birds, unless it's very stationary and you're quick on your draw, I would kind of keep it in the middle, and you can just crop it in tighter from there. Pretty easy going. I think that's all the questions. Path, let us know, when is your webinar on print? I don't have it in front of me. I think it's next week, like Tuesday or Thursday, but watch my Instagram. I'll post it tomorrow again, and you can link it up from there. There's one on social media, and there's something else. I'll think about it. Guys, I think that's it. Easy going. Cropping. The how is super simple. The how is super simple. The why is what you need to question. Why do I want to crop this? Why? Because I want to focus on the eyes. I need to give him more space or less space or whatever the case might be. So that's the easiest way to go about that. Guys, thank you for your eyeballs. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Wherever in the world you are, good morning, good evening, and good night. Have a great day. I'll see you guys online and in the next webinar. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.